Hello everyone, welcome to Study Table. My name is Swati and in this video we'll be creating a CRUD application in Spring Boot using the RESTful API, and here we'll be using the Maven build tool. Okay, so before I start, there's a quick request that if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you do not miss any further updates, and two, I continue getting the motivation to create such videos. So without much further ado, let's start the video. Okay, so there are some prerequisites for this video, that is we'll be creating a project here. So before we start, there are few prerequisites that we need to follow. So if you are new to REST, or if you have limited knowledge about REST, or do not know what REST is, so there is a link in the description which is a video on REST from Study Table. You can watch that out before you come to this video and play it. That will give you the advantage to understand how what REST exactly is and how does it work. Okay, number second is you should have an IDE installed onto your system. You can choose any IDE of your choice. I am using VS Code here, but if you are comfortable in some other IDE, then you can also use that. Okay, the third is that I am using Postgres as the database here, and to install the Postgres you need to go to the website, that is Postgres. Then I'll go to the website postgresql.org, and here in the download section you can come and, as per your operating system, choose the operating system of your choice, whatever you are using, and you can download and install Postgres. Okay, the next is that you need to have Postman installed onto your system as well, because we will be testing out the APIs on Postman. Since this is a CRUD application, so we'll be using the HTTP verbs such as get, post to test them out, and using Postman we'll be testing it. So you need to download and install Postman. We'll go to the website postman.com, and in here you'll find download Postman. Okay, click on that, and here you will find the options to download Postman from here. Okay, and once you have downloaded Postman, it will look like this. That is, if I go back to home, once you download Postman, you will have this kind of a page where you will get all these workspaces and end-to-end testing, etc. So once you, if you download this, you'll get this page. Okay, so once you are done, and we'll start the, come back and watch the video. Okay, so now first we'll go to the Spring Initializer website to check. First of all, we'll go to the Spring Initializer website, start.spring.io, and here we'll be creating our project first. So I'll be using the language Java, using the Maven build tool here, and I'll be using 3.3.5. Okay, the group ID will be com.crud rest. Okay, and the artifact ID will be CRUD. Okay, and here I'll leave demo project for Spring Boot. Packaging will be jar, and Java 17 is used here. Okay, so this is the basic project structure. Now we'll add the dependencies here. First of all, since this is the RESTful API and we will be accessing it from the browser, so we needing the web dependency, which includes RESTful applications, and Tomcat is the default server here. Okay, the next is we'll be using DevTools, so that whenever we make any changes to the application, the application automatically restarts, and we do not have to manually restart it once we make any changes. So the live reload option is there, so any changes will be automatically detected and the server will be reloaded automatically. Okay, the third is we'll be using Spring Data JPA. Since we are using database here, which is the PostgreSQL. So we will be needing data JPA so that it persists the API. That is, it maps the our columns to the database table through APIs, and it gives us the freedom to access the database as well as enter our data, whatever data we pass it from the arguments. It maps it to the database table. So Spring Data JPA stores persist data in SQL stores with Java Persistence API using Spring Data and Hibernate, right? The next we'll be using Postgres driver. Why? Because we need a driver. That is, what is a driver? If you The driver is someone which allows the Java programs to connect to a Postgres database. That is, it is a kind of a tool which will allow our program to connect to the database, and this will help us to access the database from our program, right? And the last is Lombok, which is, this will reduce the boilerplate code, which means we do not have to, let's say, generate getters and setters separately. Just by using the annotation @getter @setter, that will also help, because Lombok will help us reduce the code. That is, now the project will become shorter in size, right? So these are the 5 dependencies that we need: Spring Web, DevTools, Data JPA, Postgres, and Lombok. Okay, and now we'll generate the project. Once the project is generated, I'll we'll unzip this, because it will be a zip file. We'll unzip this and then open it into the editor. So I'll be using VS Code here. So I'll open the project in my VS Code. So now we'll open the project in our VS Code that we have just generated, and open, right? Now the project is here, and these are the folder structure. If you go to pom.xml, then okay, let it open first. Null annotation enable, yeah, okay. uh, Now the project has been generated. Now if you check the pom.xml file here, then you will find all the details what you have created: the version here, the group ID, the artifact ID, and the description of the project, the dependencies that we took, the data JPA, starter web, dev tools, which is runtime scope, because it works on runtime, the Postgres driver, the Lombok annotation, and Maven plugin, which will help us create a jar file, and the project structure. Now first, this is the main application, CRUD application, which is the Spring Boot application. Now here, in the main application, in the CRUD, we'll be creating a new package with the name of object. You can name anything. I'm naming it object, and in here we'll create a new file, and here I'll be creating a few students, and with their name, ID, age, and courses, whatever they have took, and we'll be adding and deleting them in the Dio through CRUD. Okay. So first of all, we create a student class here, student.java. Okay, and this is a class. First of all, let's name the we'll name the fields first. So this will be private int id. Okay, private string name, sorry, private int age, and private string courses, right? Okay, now we have to generate a constructor here. So source action and generate constructor, and select all, and okay. Okay, and since we have used the Lombok here. So I'll not generate the getter and setter. We'll be adding at the rate of getter and at the rate of setter. So this will, the getter and setter will be automatically generated by the framework. And here I'll be using the entity annotation here, right? Quick fix import setter. Okay, and now we'll be mapping it to the table, but first let's create all the classes first, and then we'll map it whenever we, but wherever we'll need, we'll map the object, we'll map our class to the database table. Okay, the next I'll create another package as a repository. Repository, and in this create a new file as student repository dot java, and this is an interface, so we'll create the interface, right? So this extends the jpa repository. Okay, and here we have to mention the class that we created, that is the student class. And since we will mapping it through id, which will be unique, so we have to mention the data type for the id, and here we'll be using long, and quick fix import the class, right? And there's nothing more to do here. Yeah, one more thing, that we have to annotate it with the repository interface, so that the framework understands that this is a repository, and it will treat it that way, that this will be used, and this will be treated as some repository where data will be stored, and it will be since it extending the jpa repository, so it will be using those features of the jpa repository. Okay, now one more package of service, right? And here we'll be creating a file as student service. Spelling mistake. Student service dot java. So we have created a student service class here. So first we'll annotate it with at the rate of service annotation, because since it's giving us a service, and this will be calling all the methods that we need. And here in this class, first we will okay, first we will call the student repository, create an object of it here, and we'll declare it as final. Why? Because once it's final, this class or interface cannot be instantiated or inherited. So this will be safe, and it's good for security, since my student repository does not contain much data. But if you are using it, and your student repository or your project repository has important data, then making it final will help it to be secured, so that, because it cannot be inherited or it cannot be instantiated. Okay, next is we will be creating a constructor, and select the fields and create the constructor. Okay, the next is, now we will be creating a few methods. Public list, and the name that of the class that we created, list the student, get all students, but find all method. So this will help us to find all the students in the from the student repository. Okay, sorry, from the student repository once we have created. Quick fix, import list and import the class. Okay. Oh, yeah. We will be using public optional. Option is a class student get student by id, yeah, long id, and here return student repository dot find by id, yeah, and id. Okay, this will help us to find the student through id. And why optional is being used here? Because optional will is a kind of, you can say, true false class. That is, if the student is found, it will return true. If it's not found, it will return false. So we're not using list here because there is no such list. It is just finding the student by id. If it's found, it will return the student. It's not found, then it will not return anything. Okay, next is we'll create a student. Public student create student, okay, spelling wrong, create student. Okay, and create an object of student first. Okay, return student repository dot save student. That is the object we created here, that we created an object student here, right? We are first calling the student and create a student and pass the argument as student here, which is the object, and then return the student once whatever student we type here, save this in the repository. Okay, this will map this object to this. And the last is to delete. Public void delete student, which will take the argument of id, and it will first check if student repository dot exists by id. If student repository, the id already exists, then student repository, second, what happened, dot delete by id, an id. Okay, if the id is not found, then else what will below, throw new runtime exception, okay, off, and the message will be id not found plus id. Okay, so these are the, okay, delete this token. Okay, so these are the methods that we'll be creating here. First we'll be creating an object, that is, we'll be calling this student repository here and creating an object of it, create a constructor. Then these are the methods to get students, and then we'll get student by id, to create the student and to delete the student here. And and next we'll be creating another package as controller. And here create a new class as student controller dot java. Okay, and this is a class. First of all, annotate it with at the rate of rest controller, because this is a controller and this will be passing all on the get and the post requests. So this will actually be giving us the authority to interact with APIs. Okay, and quick fix to import the annotation. Okay, first of all, we will be calling the student service class here and create an object of it. Okay, it's a kind of and now we'll be calling our methods here, which we have created in the student service class. We'll be calling here and we will be annotating them with the rest methods so that it can interact on the browser, as well as we can call them via Postman. Okay, so this is the method here, which is the public list. And okay, 1 minute, quick fix list. Yeah, so this is first calling the student class in the form of a list, and this is the method that we created in the service class, which is returning a list of students. Actually, it's just service. Okay, service dot get all students. So this will be returning us the get all the students, which is calling the service class first and reaching out to the method, and then this will get me all the students that are available, that is we have created. Okay, the next is public response entity, yeah, student, then get student by id at the rate of path variable long id. Okay, response entity import. Yeah, this is an http class. I'll be calling you, just wait for a minute. Optional, which the optional class we created there, optional student is equal to service dot get student by id. Yeah, okay, so this is getting me the student on the id import. Okay, student, it will return me the, it will return me the student, which will map the response entity. Okay, if the student is true, if the student is there, and this will map the response entity. Okay, else it will give me the response that is not found. Okay, then we'll create a student here. Okay, which has a request body of student, and this will return me the service dot create student, that is it will create the student, and this is mapping this object to here. Okay, and this is post mapping, this is, and not annotated this as get mapping with path as id. Okay, and the last is to delete the student, then public response entity student delete student, path variable, long id. Okay, and here service dot delete student from id and return RNA. Sorry, इधर yeah. Return response entity dot no content dot build. Okay, so if it doesn't find anything, then it will give us the response that there is no content, and it will build the project further. And now we will annotate this class with request mapping as this. We'll map this class as request mapping, so that whenever we want to check out the whole content, then we will use the parent RESTful APIs. Instead of going to particular APIs, we can also go and check the REST parent API, so that we can get all the view all the students or post. Or if you want to create a post request, then we'll be using the request mapping. That is, we'll be using the path of the main class. So I'll be creating the here as API slash student. So whenever we'll be, oh, एक second, yeah. So whenever we create a post request, then we'll go to this path, the post localhost 8080 slash API slash student. So after that, we'll be able to create our student. If you do not want to pass on or request mapping here, it's fine, but I am doing it for so that I can understand that on which path I am. Okay, so this is the class here, that is, it is creating get mapping from id. And yeah, this that I have not annotated with at delete mapping. Okay, and delete as id. Yeah, slash. Okay, yeah, done. Okay, everything is done. Get mapping, post mapping, and delete mapping, right? And since we are interacting with the database, so we have to define the properties of the database also. And here I'm using Postgres, so we will be configuring the database also. So we'll write some details in the application or properties here, and we have to specify what we are using. So this is the spring.datasource.url, that is the URL, which is the PostgreSQL or localhost, and Postgres runs on the port 5432, and the database is here student, which I have created in Postgres. And the username is Postgres, and the data source password is password. You will choose the password of your choice when you create a database, or when you configure your Postgres, then you will mention the password, and whatever password you have, write it here. The driver class is order postgres.driver, and the source SQL will show us the SQL whatever we write it in our table, that will be shown in the console. So if I want to show it on the console, then we'll write the statement. If you do not want, then skip this, and this is the dialect that will follow. Okay, so here I'm using pgadmin, which is the Postgres, and I have created the database student here. You can create your database if you by going here, right? Go to object, create, and create your database whatever you want. Okay, and I have a table created here as well. That is, if you go to your tables, then I have created a table student also, but here I'll create one more table. Okay, so here we create a table first. So let's create table, create table, let's say student details. Okay, serial. Why I'm using serial? So that it automatically is generated, so I do not have to generate it again and again. So this will be as a serial. Okay, and this is a primary key because we do not want the id to be same, so we'll be using the primary key here. Then name as varchar and 50. Okay, then age is int and courses varchar, sorry, varchar, and this is again 50. Okay, and I think this is the only thing I need. Okay, once I am done, run this and the query is returned. Now if I select star from student details and check the table first, then we'll find the student, which is no, this is no data here right now, but we'll enter the data here. This is the table that we have created. Now we'll map this table to our class and the code and to the student class here. Okay, here we have created the entity class here. Now we'll create a table class, table, and the name is equal to, and paste. Okay, have created a student class here, and we have added these values as generation type dot sequence here because we generated as a sequence, and the generator name is given here and the sequence name is added here. So that run your query from Postman, then sometimes it shows the error that could not connect to the sequence or could not find the sequence of the id that the id is created there. Okay, so for the sequence in pgadmin, so when you create the table in Postgres, then already a sequence is created here. That when I created the table, the sequence was automatically generated, and if you go there to properties, then you will find the definition that the current values are already set, and you can change the values if you want, and it maps the table that you have created with the column id. Okay, so we have to specify this sequence into our code when we write. Okay, so when I'll go here and I'll specify the sequence name here. Okay, and the allocation size is 1. So when now if I go to Postman and if I throw a get request, then it's nothing there. But if I go and since the table is empty, so if I go a post request, then it's taken it again, then it's 2 3 because the id is unique but the names can be same. Okay, so now if I go to my table and if I select from the table, then I'll find all the 3 values that I have generated right now. Okay, so this is how you can map your table to your database and also test it through Postman, and also you can do this through via the browser. Okay, now if I want to delete request, then I'll be specifying id here, so I'll specify the id 19, and if I, then you'll find no content. Again go from a get request send, then it's not found. Okay, then students, you'll find 20 and 21. Now if I go to Postgres and select from the table, then you'll find 2 entries there. Okay, so this is how you can map your database to your project, and also you can create, you can get post your entries to your table here. Okay, create your table and you can map your entries here. Okay, if you found this useful, Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Do not forget to share it with your friends. Okay, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you very much.